Hello everyone, welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the CFL DFS video for week number 10. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how this week's video will be structured. We will be going through my sheet for week number 10, talking about each player that I do find relevant for this slate overall, talking about whether or not I consider them a GPP option, a cash game option, a paydown option, kind of a dart throw, and then a little bit more if I'll be overweight to the field, underweight to the field, kind of in line with the field, slightly overweight, slightly underweight. Just kind of a grasp there for you guys to kind of know as you're building out your lineups for this week overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with the Rough Riders, and Shea Patterson will be the quarterback once again this week. He's $9,000. Trevor Harris was able to practice in full all week due to his knee injury, but does remain out. So with Shea Patterson here at $9,000, I consider him a GPP option. I have in line with the field with the question mark behind it just because I'm not sure exactly where his ownership is going to be. It could be a little bit higher because he's had some pretty decent weeks as of late. So maybe we're slightly underweight to the field, but probably pretty close to the field overall. And then at running back, we have AJ Alouette out once again due to his hip injury. So we have Frankie Exton, $6,800. Potential cash game option if you want to get there. Otherwise, a strong GPP option will be overweight to the field on him once again. And then in terms of the wide receiver room, Schaefer Baker remains on the 6-game IL, and Keyshawn Johnson is out this week due to a concussion, who, oddly enough, is one of the favorite targets of Shea Patterson. So the three guys that I'm looking at this week, Samuel Emilus, who's played really well with Shea Patterson at quarterback. He's up to $6,400 now, so not kind of that cash game option that we've seen in some of the other weeks, but it looks like an interesting GPP option, probably in line with the field on him once again. Sean Bain Jr. has been getting some more targets as of late, so $8,300 potential GPP option there as well. Probably ultimately in line with the field on him. And then Aju would probably be the third guy I look at $3,300. Showing some decent chemistry at times with Shea Patterson. Kind of a paydown option there, in line with the field. Kind of just depends on where his ownership comes in. Maybe slightly overweight to the field just in general. Not really getting to Jarrett Stearns because he just hasn't had that chemistry with Shea Patterson for whatever reason. Picton's had a couple decent games with Patterson at quarterback. Could see some extra Owen, though, Keyshawn Johnson this week. So maybe a guy that's a dart throw if you want to get there. And then they also have Dante Myers, Duncan Busby active for this week. Both are not on DraftKings, though. Don't really expect either one of them to play like a major role, though, just in general. And then we have this Rough Riders defense going against the Ottawa Redblacks. GPP option at $3,900. Looks like a pretty good matchup for them. Probably slightly overweight to the field. Looking for kind of that bounce back week out of this Rough Riders defense that has played pretty well so far this season. Then we move down to the Ottawa Redblacks. Drew Brown is still going to be the starter at quarterback. Jeremiah Masoli still listed as the quarterback 3. You know, if you really want to go out there and play Drew Brown, you can. I'm just not getting there myself personally. At running back, it's just really Raquel Armstead once again. $8,200 GPP option. Maybe slightly underweight to the field, although, you know, the Elks did run against the Rough Riders pretty well last week. So there is a little bit of upside to be had there, but slightly underweight to the field, probably in line with the field, somewhere around there for Raquel Armstead this week. That price tag up at $8,200 now. And then we move down to wide receivers. So Braylon Addison's on the 1-game injury list. He will not be around for this game. He was dealing with an illness, but was able to practice on the last day of practice for the week, but they're just giving him the week off just to be safe. Then they have Devontae Dedmon, $2,500 returning as their kick returner and technically listed as the backup running back. Did miss a couple weeks with any injury, but he is available. They are coming off the bye, so he's had, 2 or 3 weeks to kind of get healthy at this point in time. In terms of the wide receivers that we're actually looking to play, though, it's going to be Justin Hardy, $10,400. GPP option probably in line with the field, and then Khalil Pimbleton, who's played really well, $6,500. Another GPP option, probably in line with the field on him once again as well. And then we have the Redblacks defense, $4,300 GPP option. I think there is some upside to be had there against the Rough Riders. However, still probably going to be underweight to the field on them just in general. I don't really care for that $4,300 price tag, although the Redblacks defense has played a little bit better than I have given them credit for early on in the season. Then we move down to the Toronto Argonauts. Cameron Duke's the quarterback, $8,800, limited on Tuesday and Wednesday due to a leg injury. He is technically listed as questionable, which might not be the worst thing for this offense, but not really getting to any of these quarterbacks once again. Kind of a shaky situation there. Kadeem Carey at running back, $9,600. GPP option, probably going to be ultimately in line with the field on him once again. And then behind him, Daniel Adeboye. Probably mispronouncing his name once again, but he has been limited in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to groin injury. He's technically listed as questionable, but did not receive any carries last week either way. And then we move down to the wide receiver room. So really just Demonte Coxie that I'm probably getting to. Kind of a GPP option there, $5,200. Probably in line with the field on him once again. If you want to take a shot on somebody else, kind of a pay down option, dart throw, if you want to get there, you can definitely do that as well. The targets have really been spread out through this wide receiver room for the most part. But, if you really want to take a shot on like a Kevin Meidel, a Mekhi Polk, a David Unger, or somebody like that, you could do it. There's just kind of too many of that same type of guy, and it's really hard to know which one's going to pay off just in general. Then we move down to the Argonauts defense, $4,200 GPP option, probably in line with the field on them once again, maybe slightly underweight to the field after that massive collapse that they had against the Stampeders last week. Obviously, they're flip-flopping stadiums and everything else like that, but, there is some upside to be had there. There's some downside at the same time as well. Then we move down to the Stampeders. Jake Merritt, quarterback, $9,800 GPP option if you really want to get there. Probably in line with the field, maybe slightly underweight to the field on him. Just kind of depends. He does have that high-end upside. He does have that low-end downside at the same time. So, if you want to get to him, you can get to him. If you don't, you don't. Kind of. That's the way it is this week overall. Dedrick Mills at running back, $7,000. Monitor his status. Obviously, there was that situation where he missed last week. Haven't heard anything practice-wise about him this week, but we'll keep an eye on the transactions. Probably should have a little bit more news on that by the time we get to tomorrow, and then probably on Friday as well in terms of the depth charts overall. Then behind him, we have Peyton Logan, $4,700. Kind of an interesting GPP paydown option there. Didn't really do the greatest last week, but he was mainly used as a running back and not the returner. So if Dedrick Mills is active, he'll probably be used as a returner. If he's not active, then he's probably just going to be a running back. So that was kind of my fear last week, but probably in line with the field on him. Just kind of depends on how this situation all shakes out. Then we move down to wide receivers. Reggie Begelton, $8,000 GPP option. I will be slightly overweight to him. He's been doing better as of late, and I definitely do like that upside. Just hasn't really gotten into the end zone, though. Then Mark and Michelle behind him, $6,100. Another GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him ultimately. And then Cam Eccles-Looper is kind of an interesting paydown option at $3,200, assuming that he is active once again. I have in line with the field with a question mark behind it, so probably slightly overweight to the field on him. We'll just kind of have to see where the field ultimately ends up shaking out. If Dedrick Mills is inactive once again, he is probably going to operate as the return man or the primary return man. We did see Ishmael Hyman get some work there as well last week. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the Stampeders, and then we have their defense. $3,700 pay down option will be overweight to them versus the Toronto Argonauts this week, where you either have a banged up Cameron Dukes or you have like a Nick Arbuckle or a Brian Scott getting the start, which, there is a lot of upside with that Stampeders defense just in general. Then we move down to the Montreal Alouettes. We'll just have to see who starts at quarterback for them. If Cody Fajardo is back, $9,100. Could be a GPP option. If not, Davis Alexander will be a GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on both them, kind of depending on who ultimately ends up being the starter. Cody Fajardo was limited in practice Tuesday and Wednesday due to that hamstring injury. Probably going to assume that they give him another game off. And then Caleb Evans was placed on the 6-game injured list with his knee injury. So they did bring up Dominic Davis to the active roster to kind of operate as that short yardage quarterback, which he's done pretty well in the CFL in the past. At running back, we got Walter Fletcher, $9,800. So he's really up there at price tag at this point in time. GPP option. I have in line with the field question mark. I think maybe slightly underweight to him just because of that price tag really getting up there and really hasn't performed up to that $9,800 price tag, I would say. Then for the wide receivers, we get down to Tyson Philpott all the way up to $11,800. GPP option, probably slightly overweight to the field on him once again. Definitely do like the high-end upside. If it's Cody Fajardo back at quarterback, it probably looks even better for him. And then we have the two other wide receivers that we're looking at. Reggie White Jr., kind of a pay down option there at $4,600, probably in line with the field. And then Cole Speaker at $5,000, GPP option, coming off a pretty down week, but still kind of in line with the field on him overall. If you want to get to like Charleston Rambo, who had a pretty solid week last week, you could definitely do that as well. And then Regis Siobasso was unable to practice on Tuesday and Wednesday due to that hand injury. He's been on the 6-game injured list for a little while now. I know Tyler Snead was popping up on the injury report, but haven't seen anything this week for him, so I'm not sure if that means he's going to be back or if he kind of tweaked the injury more. I haven't really looked too far into that. I'll probably look a little bit more, and then if there's like any major update, I'll leave that down in the comments as well. And then we move down to that Alouettes defense. $4,600 GPP option, maybe slightly overweight to the field on them. They are the most expensive defense, I believe, once again this week. Going against the Tiger Cats, they did really well against them last week. Wouldn't be surprised if it's the same case this week once again. Then we move down to Tiger Cats team. Bo Levi Mitchell at quarterback, $11,000. GPP option. He does have that high-end upside, but I have in line with the field, maybe slightly underweight to the field on him once again this week just because it is the exact same matchup, and it wasn't that great for the Tiger Cats overall last week. At running back, we got James Butler, $10,600. His price tag has not moved at all. GPP option, probably going to be in line with the field ultimately on him once again. If he gets in the end zone, probably going to look pretty good for him. If he's really involved in that passing game, going to look pretty good for him as well. And then in terms of that wide receiver room, targets are still kind of getting spread out. We saw Shamar Bridges kind of get the lead once again last week. So $7,200. Consider him a GPP option, maybe slightly overweight to the field on him. Did miss practice on Tuesday, was limited on Wednesday due to an ankle injury, so we will definitely be monitoring that. That could definitely shake up this wide receiver room in a pretty big way. Stephen Dunbar Jr., $5,100. GPP option, probably in line with the field on him, ultimately once again this week. And then we have Luther, not pronouncing his last name once again, $3,100. GPP option, maybe in line with the field on him. If you really want to take a shot, definitely could get a little overweight to him. And he's one of those guys that kind of like thrown to kind of down in that red zone area. And then beyond those three, we got Tim White, GPP option if you want to get there in line with the field, maybe slightly underweight to the field. We'll just kind of have to see how that all shakes out. If you want to get to Keandre Smith, you can definitely do that as well. Kind of the problem here is they have 5 viable wide receivers, and even Giovanni Robinson, kind of that fullback, tight end, hybrid, big wide receiver, whatever you want to call him. He's kind of getting involved the last couple of weeks as well. And then we move down to Tiger Cats defense, $4,100, just going to be underweight to the field on them. I really don't like their defense too much overall. But at the end of the day, if it's Davis Alexander, there's a little bit more upside to be had there. Although it really didn't work out that way last week. So just not going to get to them this week overall. Then we move down to the Edmonton Elks. We got Trey Ford at quarterback. I do kind of have him as a cash game option this week at $9,200. We'll be overweight to the field on him. Do like the rushing upside. And, he played pretty well last week. And, it's a tougher matchup against the Lions defense probably than last week. You could argue it's probably about the same. So just like his upside in general. Kevin Brown at running back. He's $4,600. Monitor his injury status. He was limited on Wednesday due to that shoulder injury that ultimately ended up causing him to miss last week. If he's unable to go, once again, Javon Leake's going to be a cash game option, $5,800. We'll be overweight to the field on him. If he's able to go, then Javon Leake more of a GPP option, probably slightly overweight to him. And then Justin Rankin behind him actually did pretty well on his 10 carries last week at $3,000. Could be a potential paydown option if you want to go that direction if Kevin Brown's out once again. And then Tanner Green, their fullback, did not practice on Wednesday due to an ankle injury, so we will monitor his status throughout the week. We did see Gavin Cobb do a little bit more of the return duties with Javon Leake taking over as the primary running back, so we'll just keep that in mind as the week goes along. Not really getting to Gavin Cobb, though. But in terms of the other wide receivers, Curly Giddens Jr., GPP option, didn't really have that chemistry last week, at least with Trey Ford, so probably going to be slightly underweight to the field on him. Eugene Lewis, $7,200, GPP option. Probably going to be in line with the field on him. He's already got that built-in chemistry with Trey Ford. Him and Dylan Mitchell kind of were the ones from last year. However, Hergy Mayella, $6,800, didn't really show that chemistry right away, but he was also limited on Wednesday due to a foot injury. We'll monitor his status moving forward. Same thing with Arkell Smith, who missed last week, $2,800. Limited on Wednesday due to a chest injury that caused him to miss last week. Tevin Jones was kind of the big surprise last week, so $3,700 pay down option if you want to get there. I have in line with the field, but I think the field could be a little bit overweight to him, so probably going to be slightly underweight to the field on him, but definitely do like his upside. I think he's a really good wide receiver, but they really haven't used him too much this year, and those 2 deep shots last week with Trey Ford really paid off in a big way, so maybe that makes them start using him a little bit more just in general. And then we have the Edmonton Elks, $3,400 as a GPP paydown in terms of their defense. In line with the field, maybe slightly, ever so slightly overweight, just because probably not going to get Vernon Adams at quarterback for this Lions team at this point in time. If he ultimately does end up playing, it is with a knee injury. So there is some upside to be had there, although the Elks defense has not been very good so far this season. We move down to the BC Lions, Vernon Adams Jr., dealing with that knee injury, probably going to miss a couple weeks, so don't expect him to go this week. Probably going to be Jake Delagala at quarterback at $6,800. Going against the Elks, it's a pretty good matchup, so he could be an interesting paydown option, but if he struggles, they could always go to Chase Bryce too at the same time as well. We'll see who ultimately is listed as their starter as the week moves along, as well as the status of Vernon Adams Jr. Then we have William Stanback at running back, $8,100 GPP option. I have in line with the field. I got a question mark behind that just because they might lean a little bit more on the running game this week. So maybe a little bit more upside for William Stanback than there would be on a traditional week. And then we move down to the wide receiver position. Mainly the big three for the BC Lions. We got Keon Hatcher, GPP option in line with the field. I got a question mark behind it. I think maybe I'll be slightly overweight. And then the other big two, we got Alexander Hollins, $11,300. GPP option, probably in line with the field on him this week. And then Justin McInnis, who really struggled last week, $12,000. GPP option, I don't really like that price tag, so I will be underweight to him this week as well. And then beyond those three, I don't really have a strong lean on anybody else. But if you think like Jake Dolegala, Chase Bryce has like this good chemistry with one of these kind of backup wide receivers or one of the ones that don't typically get a lot of targets, then you could definitely play them. I'm just not getting there myself personally. And then last but not least, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are the lone team on the bye this week. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown of my CFL DFS sheet for week number 10. As always, if you have any questions related to CFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I will get back to you as quickly as possible. And then as always, I'll be leaving all the depth charts down in the comment section of this video, as well as any other major news that comes out throughout the week. Any other news kind of beyond that will be up on my Patreon page. This sheet will be continuously updated over there as well, as we do get all the news throughout the week in terms of transactions, injury report, everything else like that. So if you haven't done so already, consider checking out the Patreon page. It's a very, very small monthly donation over there to get some pretty useful information for CFL DFS. And then if you're into MLB DFS as well, you get some additional MLB DFS notes over there as well. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core pick videos Monday through Friday. And then we have the CFL DFS video coming out once a week, typically on Wednesdays. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user on any one of those three sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match on your initial deposit up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match on your first three deposits, I believe up to $2,500 in aggregate. So some pretty great opportunities we had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on, a good weekend overall, and some pretty good luck in CFL DFS for week number 10.